Hi everyone, so this is, I'm back for Elementary since the last three episodes are finally all available at once. And I said I was going to do them all in one video, but I decided to do the episodes individually. One today, one tomorrow, and then one Wednesday. So this particular video is about episode 22 of season 5 called Moving Targets. So the central storyline of this episode is that um, a woman who who's named Nanette Vlasic, though we don't get that name right away, is killed, and she is part of this competition to this reality TV competition. It's kind of like a paintball game. It's kind of like that, except on national television, rather than just quarantined or just instead of just contained to a certain building, and then like you go a group of your friends plus yourself do this paintball thing, and it's 30 random strangers going around the city, or the tri-state area of New York City to do this paintball game, basically. And the thing is, one of her colleagues that she works with, because she's a police chief, and one of the colleagues involved, said, reveals to the team that a few weeks ago, she was supposed to be on vacation, and she was supposed to be on vacation with the kids, going to visit her sister, and what he found out was that from the woman's sister, from the Net's sister, was that she actually didn't go on vacation. She sent her kids to her sisters. So she sent her kids to her sisters to be in this paintball competition for $1 million. So eventually, we also found out that a few months before, I think, one of her closest friends was killed by her husband, by her friend's husband. Like, her friend's husband killed her friend, Nanette's friend, and then killed himself. And she was pretty distraught over that. And it turns out that the investigation, the big investigation that she was working on, was involving that. And eventually she found out some things about that, but before that ever happens, they look into this ER doctor who is part of the competition, but his real name is, his first name, his name is Charles, or what he calls himself, Charles Orio, who grew up in a Ugandan refugee camp, came to America at 19, became summa cum laude at the University, graduated from, went to medical school, and then now practices medicine as a ER doctor. But that was all a lie. His actual name is Akello Akeni, who is a former child soldier in Uganda, and was previously wanted for war crimes, but now isn't, because I think it was because of the fact that he was a child soldier and he was coerced into being one and all of that. So then they go into Kenny says that he says once they catch up with Kenny, he tells them that Nanette went into a strip club owned by the mob, and the owner of said strip club is a guy named Rigetti, who tells them that she threw herself into work once the death of the close person in her life, who he assumed was a family member, and when she started, to stop taking his calls, he eventually got in touch with her, and she said she was working on this big case, which turned out to be the death of her best friend at the hands of the best friend's husband, who then killed himself, and she asked for a favor from Rigetti. The favor was to meet a friend of his who works at this big national bank. And so he offers to talk to his friend about it because he doesn't want to give the friend's name. The friend eventually tells Rigetti that many of the people who there were people receiving wire transfers from this unknown person, from a lot of people were getting wire transfers from this from the same account, and we find out that they were coming from this company called Alpha Hawk Firearms. We also find out that the people getting the wire transfers from the firearms company most of them couldn't have done it because they didn't have the opportunity to. So it turns out Alpha Hawk Firearms is bribing cops to use their guns, and one of the guns, I assume that that Nanette's friend's husband was a cop, and therefore that's how he got the gun that was from Alpha Hawk's Firearms. And so Sherlock's thinking that someone in Alpha Hawk killed her for finding out this information. So they bring in Clint Washburn, who I think is the founder / CEO of Alpha Hawk Firearms, accuse him of murdering her. But he's like, I didn't do it because the FBI already found out about me and my dealings 3 years ago. So, and I made a deal to pay, I think like $10 million worth of fines and no jail time, and I think probation as well. So it wasn't it. So that all stuff that whole deal checks out. The person who killed Nanette killed her because they knew about what Alpha Hawk was doing, but not that they were being secretly investigated. So the person killed them. That's according to Sherlock. So Sherlock, Gregson, and Marcus go back to the competition headquarters and tell them that Kenny was a murderer when in fact he wasn't, and trick Jake Bozeman and Daria Wingold into getting Kenny back into the office to catch a killer. Turns out, after catching Bozeman trying to dig up the gun that he buried, that it was him. And we found out Bozeman was a former Texas Ranger, because Bozeman is one of the two, I didn't say this before, but Bozeman was one of the two creators of the competition, but anyway, he was a former Texas Ranger, and he took bribes from Alpha Hawk to use their guns. Eventually he got enough money to quit, and so eventually he wanted to know what was going on, because I think he may, I don't know if they said it, but eventually I think he heard something about investigation happening and wanted to know if he was being brought into the investigation, and stuff like that. So that was the whole main storyline. The B storyline involves Jess Shinwell, and Shinwell asks early in the episode. Shinwell asks to meet with Joan to talk. He's what he needs help with is that he can only talk to this one SBK lieutenant named DeMarco or DeMarco's Bridger or DeMarco Bridgers or Bridger, and he can only talk to that dude, that guy, that lieutenant only, and he can't get to any of the higher ups in SBK. So he needs Joan's help to get him to land himself in jail, so that he could take over Bridger's corner of the operation within SBK. So Joan eventually goes to this guy who's a detective named to this detective named what's his name? Gabe Acosta, who caught a murder case a couple years ago. I think it was like 2 years ago or 2 years before this. And the woman killed was suing a guy named Ezra Hayes for unpaid alimony, and it was suspected that's why he killed her. But not only did his alibi check out, but his DNA wasn't a match to what was found at the crime scene. So Joan's like, well, I think Hayes hired the SBK Lieutenant Bridger to kill her, and she also reveals that Bridger's mother, Joan had gone out to Bridger's mother and told her that she admired her front porch. And so Bridger's mother told Joan that her son had modeled it after did the remodeling around the same time that the woman was killed, and the stuff on the porch or on the deck some of the stuff on the deck is a match to what was some evidence on the crime scene of the dead woman. So she gives this all to Acosta. Acosta eventually arrests Bridger, and then Shinwell is promoted to taking over Bridger's territory. And we find this out when he asks Joan to meet him at his apartment, where he's packing up his things, and that's when he tells her that he's going to take over Bridger's territory. I also find out that he wrote a confession to killing Jamil all those years ago, and the reason why he is he wrote the confession is because he needs to pay for what he did, and the reason why he's actually doing all this with the SBK now is because he wants to atone for what he did. He doesn't want to get away with what he did. He wants to atone for what he did. So that's why he wrote the confession, and that's why he's doing everything with SBK. And then after they arrest Bozeman, Joan goes to goes to meet with Shinwell at his apartment, and she finds him on the floor of his apartment, what looks to be like he's dead. So that's the entire episode. So I don't know. Again, this is still like another standard episode. It didn't really have me on the edge of my seat, like seasons before. It didn't really. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't like it had me. Like I said, it had me on the edge of my seat. It didn't have me like that. The only reason why I'm like even still watching is because I've been a fan for the last since the last like 2 years. I've caught up on the whole entire 5 seasons, and I've just been a fan since the very first episode. But it doesn't have me on the edge of my seat like it used to. It's not terrible, but it's not fantastic on the edge of my seat kind of thing. I've been noticing that this is becoming a trend with all this series that I'm watching and have been a fan of for the last 5 years or so. SVU, Criminal Minds, Grey's Anatomy, this included, Elementary included. It's just a lot of the later seasons for these shows are just, not having me on the edge of my seat like they used to, and it's just I don't know what's going up with these writers for all these shows now. I don't know what's going on with these writers now, but I kind of wish they would kind of step it up, because I don't think I'm the only person feeling like this, especially with SVU. I'm not the only one feeling like this, but I don't know about anybody else who watches Elementary. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but if anybody else feels the same way, feel free to say something in the comments down below. But I don't know. Next week is about how, or not next week, next episode is about how Shinwell, they found, Shinwell is actually dead, or appears to be dead. I don't want to say 100% that he's dead. It may just be a misnomer or a misdirection. It may just be a misdirection with, them. Yeah, it may just be a misdirection, to, make sure that the person responsible for hurting Shinwell doesn't suspect that he's actually alive, and therefore, doesn't suspect that they're being investigated. So it could be a misdirection. I hope it is, because I really do like the Shinwell character, and I want to see him grow more as a character. But if he actually is dead in episode 23, then well, there's not much I can really there's not much I can do about that, but I'm hoping that it's just a misdirection and they actually bring Shinwell in as a season regular next season, and actually have him as part of the team as well, because I think a new addition to the family, the 11th family is long overdue. So hopefully they don't just kill him off. I'm hoping that's the case, but I'll also make the prediction that they didn't kill him off next episode, and that they keep him around. So, that's pretty much all I have for this episode. and I will see you guys tomorrow for episode 23, and Wednesday for the series season finale, not season finale, not series finale, season finale. But yeah, so next 2 days are gonna be back to back about with these episodes. So see you guys tomorrow.